training to jump higher isn't all sunshine and rainbows as much as we might make it seem. Like, there are a lot of things that we don't like about training, but there's also things that we love about training and are the reason that we continue to train specifically for the vertical jump. In today's video, we're gonna make a little sandwich of two things we like about jumping, well, training to jump higher, and then one thing that we each hate about jump training.
Who are you?
Having said that, I am Isaiah Rivera. I have a 50.5-inch vertical. I am currently training to break my PB. And this is John. He coaches me how to jump higher, and he has written all the programs over at THPstrength, which if you want to get coached by the both of us and our amazing team on how to jump higher, go to THPstrength.com. There's
We have
also
a discount right now.
free stuff in the description.
We have a 20% discount off the first month.
Yeah, you get a 20% discount. Spring sale. 20% off your first month.
Spring into jump training.
Yeah.
Anyways, we need Austin back for that. If you guys know what we're talking about, then leave a comment below and let us know if you remember Austin's little shtick every episode back last year. So yeah, let's start with you. What are two things that you hate? Or are we going to do back and forth? That's the plan?
Yeah.
All right. So one thing you hate, and I'll give one thing I hate.
What I hate, this might be my least favorite thing. Actually, aside from getting hurt, but I wanted to stay away from injury stuff. I hate week 2 and week 3 of training when I'm very fatigued. It is very difficult to get myself to train. The only reason I do it is because I have built a habit, and I know the most important thing is just to show up. But there are little thoughts in my head that tell me to stop.
So what is week 2 versus week 3 like for you? Is it worse week 2 than week 3? Do you have a preference, or is week 3 just like you're at the end, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and week 2 is just like, I have another week of this? Are you kidding?
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. Like week 1, there's novelty. I'm usually doing new exercises and new rep scheme. There's also, I'm usually fresh-ish going into it. And it feels like I'm getting better, especially with like high volume stuff. I'm usually pretty banged up coming into it. And then it's like, back to the stuff that makes me way better. But then week 2 comes in and it's hard, and it's like, whoa. And I have I have the rest of this week and a whole nother week after that. Week 3 is, I'm even more fatigued, but it's like, I made it this far, might as well finish.
Survive and thrive, baby.
And something, I'm trying to be better about this on every episode. The lesson, a takeaway that I would get from this is just get through the first 2 weeks. That's so important. It's really get through the first 3 weeks, but if you get through the first 2 weeks, it'll feel stupid, like quitting at week 3. And at that point, like the hay's in the barn, like 2 weeks of consistent training where you really get after it and you watch your diet, and you jump consistently is enough to see a pretty big improvement, specifically for guys with a lower training age. And the guys at the lower training age are usually the guys that have the problem of staying consistent and building that habit. If you can get a solid 2 weeks of training in, week 3 sucks, but you might as well get it over with. And psychologically, it's a lot easier than week 2. And then week 4 is fun. You unload, and it's pretty fun.
So what would you say about like 2-week cycles loading and 1 week off? Would you prefer that? We've done it in the past.
I do prefer them, actually. I've thought about, I've thought about, even when I looked at
maybe next year we'll experiment with
Rolf and Randy stuff earlier this year. I even thought about the benefit of that. That's always a possibility.
You hear what I said?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's all. Me being soft is always a possibility.
Oh. All right. So the first thing that I hate about jump training is I actually did 2 things I like because I'm really nice, and I forgot that it was 2 things we hate. So I have to think of my second. But the thing that I hate is lack of facilities. It is one of the biggest wouldn't say crutches, the opposite of a crutch. It's like the biggest crippling experience is when you don't have access to facilities. I think that is probably the hardest thing about getting into what we do at a very high level. And I'm sure that there's like a lot of kids that listen, maybe a lot of kids that listen to this that feel the same way. Like, well, I only have dumbbells, or I only have, I mean, we have solutions for that. But for me personally, just being kind of like almost spoiled in the sense of having really good facilities my whole life, like in high school, not all the time, but like much of the year, I definitely had a track. Whether I was going to be on snow or not was like, here or there, but I had somewhere that I could run. I always had a weight room at pretty much my entire 14 onward. When I didn't have a track is whenever my consistency tends to get less, like my training quality goes down. Maybe not consistency, but the quality goes down for me. So I would say lack of access to a track is a big one for me. It's super weird and super niche, but tracks in Florida don't really exist. They're not really a thing unless you're going to volunteer somewhere and you want to be around the sport anyways. It's very hard to get access to, and even then, we've seen this, like it's next to impossible to have your athletes have like track access. You got to be really creative in how you go about that, or have a lot of money to just throw away on rentals and things of that nature. So I would say that's my least favorite thing for sure. What's one thing you love about jump training? You've got a couple.
Deload dunk sessions with friends. That's
You just like competing and crushing the comp. Your friends.
Nah, it's not about that at all, actually. It's no, I just like being around friends dunking. I don't know. I literally just explained it the best way I could.
That's
It's
fine. We
not
can keep it
it's
short
not
and sweet.
about
We
it's
can
not
keep it short and
about
sweet.
like or you what? You said
I
what?
said we can keep it short and sweet if you want. Like, just like, hey, it is what it is. Like, you said you meant what you said, and you said what you meant.
Yeah. No, I
And
specifically think about the moments leading up to a dunk session, like the morning of, like being excited. I got to like when Austin was here, um, that was a huge part of
what the
it loves Austin. Yeah, that was like a big thing I would look forward to on dunk days. And then when Lewis was here, it was that exact same sensation. It's like waking up and it's dunk day, and it literally feels like Christmas. That's the best way I can describe
Do
it.
you know I don't get that at all?
Yeah,
Like
I know.
0%.
I know.
Maybe it's just
Yeah.
I'm not as good as you. No, like in all seriousness, I think maybe it's just I'm not as good as you, so I don't like get excited as much. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like I'm like, oh my god. Like I'm like
The
I
thing
will
is, I
go.
felt like that when I was doo-doo. 'Cause I would,
What? Did I just get this straight?
m maybe I was progressing really quickly, though. Like, I was never,
In my shoes?
you windmilled, you V-spade on 9/8, and if you're not able to dunk, that's probably very like, it's not like I wouldn't be excited if like, let's say I was out and could only windmill, I probably wouldn't be very excited to go on the basketball court. But even on
Do
days
you
like
realize that's like
that
99% of the people on our training?
I don't think so. I think most people I'm not saying, like, the skill level, I'm saying relative to where you're at, like, people are usually, like, PRing, especially if your training age is low, like, you're
Right.
constantly hitting, like, PRs and stuff like that. Um,
So you think I'm in like a unique cohort of people that are training through plateaus and don't care?
yeah, I think that's rare. I think that's really rare.
That's funny.
It's not even a plateau, it's, like, compared to your best, it's like you're at a low point, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's psychologically really difficult for most people, I feel like.
Yeah.
Even
I
for
think
me, like, when I get hurt, like, I get, like it's not fun.
I don't know.
I
For me, it's just part of the process. Like I think that and maybe this is like the other thing that I enjoy, I guess you could say, is I like working hard. Like I really enjoy
yeah,
it. Like I genuinely enjoy the work. And I think that a lot of people don't feel that way. The lack of facilities makes me enjoy it less. But dude, even just little things like I really enjoy being on a track when it's sunny and the birds are chirping. And that sounds absolutely ridiculous and something like out of like the whatever, some like 1980s film, but it really genuinely is enjoyable for me. Like being outside, it's like the reason I like golf, dude. I like being on grass around water and it's kind of quiet and peaceful and you're doing something that has purpose. And that's fun to me. I like improving and I like challenging myself and I don't like, the having to worry about what other people think. And when you're on the track, like, dude, it's just like you and your thoughts and your feelings, and no one else is around. And it's nice. And it's kind of like, it is really peaceful and really enjoyable. That was one of the things I really enjoyed about coaching at Duke was like, it was easier for me I always had track access, regardless of whether I was hurt or not. It didn't matter year round. It was never going to be snow. It might rain and be cold, but I always had track access. And that was just super enjoyable. I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people don't really lean into and maybe should, like with the sprinting and the full warm up and stuff. That's one of the best things if you can get to it. It's one of the most enjoyable things.
This reminds me of like I would compare you to people that like fishing. Like
Why?
like I never so I fished a lot when I was little because in Utah everybody like I would do scouts and stuff and we go on camping trips and that type of thing.
I don't really like fishing.
But no, I'm gonna get to it. And I never understood how people found fishing enjoyable, because it wasn't exciting to me. Like, I like doing stuff that, like, gets my heart pumping and, like, it gets excited, and then when people would always describe fishing, it's just like, "Oh, I just like being in nature, and it's relaxing," and, like, that type of thing, and how those people describe fishing is how it sounds like you feel about training, like, you just like being out there, and it's like it's almost like a zen type of thing.
Not really
But I
though, because
like
like I hate hiking, I hate fishing, I hate all that shit. The specific thing I think I like about it is and maybe this is relatable to like people that like hiking and fishing is one, it's nostalgic of something that like it brings me back to kind of like periods of my time that were really enjoyable, like competing in
yeah,
track.
yeah.
And I also enjoy the trying hard aspect, like those brief periods of very, very intense effort. I feel like are very productive
So
for my
I relate
development.
to that specifically, but what I don't understand how you don't get excited though
For
about that.
dunking?
Like like when I wake up, because that right there, what you just said is like that trying very hard for a short period of time, like a max output activity. Even now, just thinking about it, I'm like my palms are literally sweating as I just said that. Like,
Okay, I'll say this for 2 foot, yes. For 2 foot, yes. For 1 foot, no. Because 1 foot doesn't work that way. 1 foot is not like that. 1 foot is not like sprinting. 1 foot is not like it is not like try harder, do better. 1 foot is more about rhythm. It's about feel. It's about finesse. It's like it's very, very different. When I was doing a lot of 2 foot, I would get excited. I wouldn't be sweating like a lot of the time, like that excited because sometimes I'd just be low rimming.
yeah,
And I was oftentimes nurturing. And what made it not fun is when you're hurt. Like if I'm
yeah,
healthy and I feel good, 2 foot, I get that. I like the first time I was going for an East Bay off one, I would get that, or windmilling, I would get that. And then like nervousness more so than excitement. I'd be like, I'm in
yeah.
good shape. Like I'm in really good shape and I'm excited. Then I would have that. But for 2 foot, I would get it a lot because 2 foot is like just fun. What I didn't like about that is that oftentimes I would push too hard, too much, too soon, and then walk out of the session injured, and that made it not worth it. Like if it
So
deters
it's
from my
probably
training,
been so it's probably a thing where you've been conditioned to not feel like that. Because like, if you think about it, times where you have felt like that and you overdo it and it leads to injury and you take steps
yeah,
backwards, it's probably just condition your brain to like, "Hey, don't get excited."
don't get excited because you
It
have to
might
stay within the boundaries of like health.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 1 foot
Versus yeah, that makes sense. Because
1
I
foot
think
though, like when I
yeah,
was my best, it's more fear because it's less predictable than 2 foot. Like, dude, 2
yeah.
foot, I know I'm gonna jump within 99% of my best every single time I step on the floor. And I know it's gonna be technically perfect, and I know it's gonna be good, right? Where I got demotivated from 2 foot was when I had these physiological barriers, like anatomical barriers. I couldn't get into internal rotation, which made me load my low back more and my hips more. and made me leak a lot of energy. And my outputs are crazy, but I'm leaking so much energy that I don't jump that high compared to someone that's like half as forceful as I am. So, like in terms of metrics, that's where I lost a lot of motivation with 2 foot. And that's what made me lean into 1 foot so much. It was just debilitating knowing I have to be as strong as Isaiah to jump, or as powerful as Isaiah, and train 2 to 3 years just to get to the point where I'm jumping as high as, like, this is going to sound bad, but like, I have specific names in my head that I'm like, dude, I would dominate you in literally every single lift in the weight room and every single sprint and every single plyo, but you'll get more dunks than I will simply because you have better mobility, and like you can get into positions better than I am. And no matter how hard I work, I'll never be able to have that. Like, that was so debilitating for me that I was like, fuck this. I'm so over this. Like, I want to do 1 foot. And 1 foot's more
Yeah.
fulfilling because I can try half as hard and be way better because I'm not limited by mobility. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at that point, there's other variables that I can like lean into, and maybe I don't get as excited, but I'm less demotivated than training your ass off and getting trounced by someone who trains a
Yeah.
quarter as much as you because they have better mobility.
It's
Like, that is
interesting.
debilitating.
It's interesting, like, um, the way I fell upon dunking. I think we've talked about this in the past, but part of and this is what, like, being around I think specifically my dad is what led to this, because my dad my stepdad, for those of you that don't know, was like an elite Olympic weightlifter in college. So he
Oh, no.
knew yeah. So he knew what it took to get to the tippy top in the athletic world, right? Like, in terms of work, talent, genetics, like, all, like, he was very aware of that. And growing up, sports was about finding it wasn't even like what you enjoy necessarily. It was more so what are you most talented at naturally. And I did a lot of a huge reason why I played so many sports was my dad pushing me to like try different things.
To see what you naturally excelled at.
And I naturally and the thing is I would enjoy the things that I was naturally better at.
I always say that to people. It's like the sport finds you, you don't find the sport.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then dunking, it was interesting. There was a little bit of pushback because the thing I was naturally best at was baseball, but I didn't like it as much as basketball, but I was still pretty good at basketball. But then dunking was the perfect storm of that, of like, whoa, this is the most fun thing I've done. And this is the thing I'm like, I seem to be pretty naturally good at as well. Um, so it's I get hesitant to give people that advice though, because obviously I want people to dunk. Like, I want people to experience that. Um,
I mean,
but
I'm kind of like the most of our athletes,
yeah,
I'm not the best dunker, and I know that, but I enjoy just getting better and learning new things. That's really
yeah,
important to me.
yeah,
And maybe I'm slightly more inclined to be decent at it, but like, I'm not you, I think there's only one of you in the world, or maybe let's say 3 of people like you, right? That's not the majority of people. So that's not the reason
yeah.
why. Maybe that's the reason some people dunk, is they want to be the number one. But I think
But
a
most
lot
people
of people
don't.
just want to be their best. You know what I mean?
I think
Oh,
most
no
people are
one, yeah.
probably I think most people are a mixture of what we said. I think it's people that are not genetic freaks that love it, that love to work hard, that love to dunk, and then that love I think the community aspect of it is huge. Like,
Right.
that is my favorite thing about dunking, like, what we're about to do on Friday, like, where it's, like, a bunch of guys, like, getting together and stuff, and then you meet up and, like, have a dunk session, and then you go freaking eat dinner, like, right after and, like, hang out, like, I love that about dunking. It reminds me when I was little and, like, I'd go to the basketball court with my friends, and we just play basketball all day, like, and that
That's
was,
cool.
like yeah, like, when I think of, like, memories from being little, it's that. It was always, like,
Core
doing
memories.
something athletic. Doesn't even have to be basketball. I was, like, anything that required movement and athletic and competing and, like, that type of thing with your friends is, like yeah, that's my favorite thing about dunking.
Wow. This was
Yeah.
really, really insightful. There's very few times where I come into a podcast and like I'm genuinely intrigued by something that we say or like talk about. But this
Yeah.
is a really interesting one. And we've talked about it before, but maybe not into the same like detail. You're like, I just don't get it. I'm like, dude, we're
Yeah.
just different people. But
Mhm.
yeah, people like I always say this as a in many areas of life, but different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah.
all not going to swing the golf club the same way.
Also, I don't know if a lot of people know this. On THP, we have a map. Like we literally, because I genuinely feel like you should
Yeah.
get somebody to like find a training partner or like find someone to dunk with on the weekends. But when you sign up for THP, it's literally one of the pin posts on the school community, and then there's literally a map where you can put where you live, and then you can see all the other THP athletes near you. So I highly recommend. It gives you a lot of purpose when you train for something. So even if someone's far, like time it up with a deload week. Like we have a guy, his name is Bishop. I was talking to him last night. He's coming to the session on Friday, and he lives in South Carolina, and he's literally driving down to Orlando for this dunk session.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that type of thing is perfect. Like when you have something to train for, like plan it out, right? Like if someone's on the next state over or something like that, like go plan a drive or buy a flight and time it up with your deload weeks and go meet up and dunk with someone, because you will. It's different, and
You know who
that's
might be
always when
able
you're
to
doing your
come?
best.
You know who might be able to come is Cam Gilmore. If it's a Friday night, I'll let. Do you want me to text?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
will
tell 'em.
text Cam. I texted him yesterday because I was like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" I actually have a story time coming soon, guys, and I'm really excited about it. It's about the last month of training, and yeah, I figured I would share my progress, not so much on my story. I mean, occasionally you'll see little tidbits, but I've been capturing everything, not everything. I've been capturing a lot of what I've been doing and taking notes. And
You should
today,
title it. You should title it. I trained for 30 days to dunk. Here's what happened.
yeah, literally, and
Like
kind of,
I
yeah,
actually.
yeah, that is what happened. And yeah, I'm just getting to the end of that
I wish
30
you
day.
would have tried dunking right before.
I think I would have been really demotivated to train the next 29 days.
At least you have a starting point for now the next 30 days.
Yeah, I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it'll be good feedback for you guys. I'm trying to do. I realize you guys like stories. You guys like listening to stories. Everyone likes stories. So not
Yeah.
everyone, but a lot of people like stories. That's how we share things in our nature. It's in our nature. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. But I feel like this is a good place to cut it off. We got kind of what we meant to, but we did a good job.
I guess
Isaiah
one and
titled the
one.
video before. Yeah. Isaiah titled the video beforehand, and I think we covered that for sure. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, go to THPstrength.com if you're interested in coaching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Ciao. Au revoir. Bye-bye.